The 49th night, father comes home knocking. About 500 meters from Ben Hoa Village gate, there was a stagnant pond. This pond spanned roughly a few hundred square meters, with 2 rows of quiet bamboo trees casting their shadows on both banks. Especially during moonlit nights and at dawn, a gradually deepening sense of gloom emanated from the pond. This eerie feeling, in truth, had only appeared recently, specifically after Elder Bai, the owner of the house nearby, passed away. The spacious 5-room house, with its traditional tiled roof, stood only 50 meters from that stagnant pond. A year ago, that grand house was home to Elder Bai's family. It was the epitome of rural wealth, a dream for everyone in Ben Hoa Village. Built on high ground, the house boasted a striking red-painted gate. From the gate, 2 towering rows of ancient trees lined the path. A gravel driveway, about 100 meters long, led to a red brick courtyard before reaching the house itself. The house comprised 5 rooms. The central, largest room served as a reception area. Behind a gleaming, dark wooden bed was an altar heavily laden with burning incense. Villagers believed that such thick, persistent incense smoke signified a strong connection to the spiritual realm, and that altar was once Elder Bai's great pride. The numerous incense coils were a testament to his family's devoutness. To the right were 2 rooms. One was Elder Bai's study, where he read and analyzed village affairs, and the other his private quarters. To the left, 1 room housed his son, Mr. Bao, and his wife, used for storing land deeds and other secret documents. Extending about 10 meters behind the left side of the main house was the servants' quarters, home to 8 housemaids. Finally, the rear garden housed the bathroom and latrine, enclosed by a 2-meter-high fence. From Elder Bai's bedroom window, looking out into the expansive rear garden, one saw countless ancient trees he had planted, providing year-round shade. For this reason, the rear garden always held an air of eerie mystery. In this village, Elder Bai was a kind and gentle soul. Despite his immense wealth-vast lands and overflowing granaries, he never looked down on anyone. During the Great Nam Thin Flood, the people of Ben Hoa Village in particular, and the entire Dong Hung district in general, suffered from prolonged famine. Starvation and death were daily occurrences. Witnessing this plight, Elder Bai, together with his son Mr. Bao, opened their granaries, distributing rice, salt, and oil to aid the poor, thus saving Ben Hoa and the entire district from catastrophe. 8 years ago, a notorious bandit gang, over 100 strong, armed with gleaming spears and skilled in martial arts, descended upon the village. While these ruthless brigands looted other wealthy homes, Elder Bai's residence remained untouched. The gates were left unguarded, yet no bandit dared to trespass. This showed that even the most ferocious outlaws owed a debt of gratitude to Elder Bai and would never disrespect his family. Elder Bai's moral standing commanded respect, making him the most revered person in the village. Life flowed smoothly until nearly 2 months ago, when Elder Bai suffered a stroke, collapsing and hitting his head on the floor, vomiting blood, and dying instantly. People from far and wide flocked to pay their respects, more numerous than floodwaters. His lavish funeral shook the entire region due to its immense scale. Many who had received his kindness came to mourn, and a somber atmosphere enveloped the village. Elder Bai's former bedroom was transformed into a shrine. Mr. Bao and his wife set up an altar there, where incense burned continuously, never allowed to extinguish. Villagers also frequently offered incense and prayers, sharing their grief. Life continued in this quiet manner until the 49th day after Elder Bai's burial, when strange occurrences began. That morning, Mr. Mao, Elder Bai's neighbor, woke up and began his usual Tai Chi routine. It was still foggy, making faces indistinguishable. Mr. Mao stretched and inhaled the crisp morning air. Just as he opened his eyes, he glanced towards the alleyway. He gasped, seeing a hunched figure, leaning on a cane, slowly walking into Mr. Bao's house. Due to the distance and the lingering fog, Mr. Mao couldn't make out the face clearly. Yet that stooped figure seemed strangely familiar. He initially assumed it was an elderly villager coming to participate in the morning ceremony for Elder Bai, so he paid no further heed, continuing his exercise. But then, a sudden thought jolted Mr. Mao. The figure had just entered the courtyard from the alley, yet he hadn't heard the gate open. Suspicious, he peered over the fence, straining his eyes. Just as his eyes adjusted to the fog, the figure instantly turned to look at him. In that brief moment, Mr. Mao's blood ran cold. His face turned ashen, his limbs felt like jelly. In sheer terror, he stumbled backward, his tongue seemed to retract, and only incoherent gurgles escaped his throat. After a few agonizing seconds, Mr. Mouse scrambled backward in a panic, then bolted straight into the servants' quarters behind his house. Mr. Mouse burst inside, startling Tut, his loyal servant of nearly 10 years who had just woken up. Seeing his master rush in, face pale and bloodless, Tut leaped up, dropping the shirt he was holding, and frantically rushed to steady Mr. Mouse, grabbing his shoulder. "Master, what's wrong? Why are you so pale, as if you've seen a ghost? Did a thief break in? Let me go check." Tut grabbed the nunchaku hanging near the window, ready to dash out. Immediately, Mr. Mouse tugged his arm back, gasping, "No, don't go out, just check if anything's moving around Elder Bai's house." Tut stared blankly at his master. In that fleeting moment, he felt his master's skin was ice cold, as if dipped in water. Mr. Mouse's fingers trembled uncontrollably, his shallow breaths ragged as if he was on the verge of collapsing. After a few stunned seconds, Tut hesitantly asked, "What should I look for over there? What does their house have to do with ours?" Mr. Mouse hissed in terror, "Just go quickly. See if anything's wrong over there, understand? Remember." Though an old man, Tut rarely questioned his master, so he dared not disobey. Grabbing the nunchaku, Tut stalked towards the fence outside. The sky was still shrouded in a faint mist, and the lingering chill of the night wind wrapped around his bare torso, making him shiver slightly. Tut approached the fence, scanning, but saw nothing but the dark house. Half believing, half doubting, he returns to the kitchen and sits respectfully beside his master. "Master, their house is still dark. It seems no one is up yet to receive guests." Mr. Mouse stammered. "Turn on the lamp, turn it bright." Tut obeyed. In the dim lamplight, his master's face was ashen, as if no blood flowed within. After a few seconds of hesitation, Tut ventured, "Master, what did you see that frightens you so? Or is there something wrong with our house? Shall I go patrol around?" Mr. Mouse shook his head, his gaze fixed on the fog. "Did you look at their house? Are you sure you didn't see anyone?" Tut replied, "Absolutely no one. If there were, their dog would have barked furiously. Are you sure you saw someone, master? I fear you might have been dreaming or mistaken." Tut's words made Mr. Mouse suddenly doubt his own perception. As close neighbors, Mr. Mouse knew well that Mr. Bow's house had a very clever black dog. This dog was incredibly sensitive. At night, Mr. Bow would let it roam free to guard the house. Just a stranger's footstep would make the dog bark loudly. Yet, until now, Mr. Mouse hadn't heard a single bark. However, Mr. Mouse immediately dismissed the thought. While his eyesight might have been mistaken, how could his hearing be wrong? Because when he faced that figure, he clearly heard faint whimpering mixed with a hacking cough. That face, that cough, belonged to Elder Bai, who had been buried deep beneath the earth 49 days ago, no one else. Tut, sensing his master's internal struggle, repeated, "I fear you might have been dreaming or mistaken, master. It's still early over there. Where would guests come from?" Mr. Mouse shivered, then mumbled as if talking to himself, "Could it be? Elder Bai is still alive." At the mention of Elder Bai, Tut was startled, his face blanching. After a second of shock, Tut quickly said, "Master, are you dreaming? Elder Bai passed away 49 days ago. I myself helped you throw a handful of dirt on his grave. He's buried deep. How could he possibly come back to life?" Mr. Mouse gasped, breathing heavily, then said in a terrified voice, "What do you know? Do you know who I just saw? It was Elder Bai, leaning on his cane, walking into the courtyard. He even looked at me, coughing and crying. I was so scared, I ran in here to call you." Tut's jaw dropped in disbelief. "What did you say, master? You saw Elder Bai alive? What are you talking about? How can such an absurd thing happen? Elder Bai died almost 2 months ago. His funeral was grand, the whole village knows. His grave is the biggest in the cemetery. Now you're saying he's not dead." Mr. Mouse urgently clapped a hand over Tut's mouth and hissed, "Quiet. Don't let your mistress hear you, she's easily scared." Tut nodded, "Yes, master." Then anxiously whispered, "Master, did you truly see Elder Bai? You've been with me for so long, you should know my nature. Have I ever mistaken a ghost for a human? This morning, I was doing my tai kai. When I opened my eyes, I saw a figure with a cane coming from the alley. In an instant, that figure was in the courtyard. I found it strange because how could someone move so fast and appear in the middle of the courtyard without me hearing the gate open or footsteps? Suspicious, I looked, and Elder Bai was also squinting at me. I thought I would die on the spot." At this, Tut broke out in a cold sweat. He gathered all his courage and blurted out, "Oh no, master, you've encountered Elder Bai's ghost. Tonight must be the 49th day ceremony, so he's found his way back to the living world. You stay here. I'll go get some locust beans to burn for protection. Mr. Mouse stared blankly at the fog, his body still trembling like someone afflicted with fits. Tut quickly wrapped the locust beans in a piece of cloth, set them alight, and began fanning the smoke around his master. Suddenly, Mr. Mouse asked, "So, it's true that on the 49th day, spirits can return?" Tut, fanning the smoke, replied, "Yes, master. You must remember what happened 10 years ago. That year, you saved me when I was starving by the roadside, giving me a home and work as a servant. Before that, I used to follow a sorcerer, wandering here and there. I secretly learned a few things. That master said that 3 days after burial, the soul becomes fully conscious. But if the gate isn't opened, they can't fully awaken, can't return to the earth's surface, and won't know the way home. Therefore, the gate must be opened so the spirit can fully awaken, come back to the living world, and find its way home. But some souls have to wait until the 49th day ceremony to return. The master also said that only those with a compatible destiny, good karma, a spiritual connection, or those the spirit chooses to show itself to, can see them. Some people go their entire lives without seeing a ghost, yet they scoff at the sacred and blaspheme the divine. Tut paused, his eyes sweeping towards the fence for a second, then continued, "And earlier, you truly saw Elder Bai's spirit, master," Mr. Mouse said doubtfully, "but they haven't done the gate-opening ritual over there yet, so how could Elder Bai's ghost return?" Tut replied with a sigh, "There's something you don't know, master. A spirit that dies unjustly doesn't need to be summoned. It will find its way back regardless. What if Elder Bai died unjustly?" "I'm not certain, but think about it, master. Did anyone else bleed from their mouth during their embalming, apart from him? You yourself saw it with your own eyes." Mr. Mouse paused, recalling the scene when he rushed to the house upon hearing the news, picturing Elder Bai's mouth still gushing black blood, making him shiver. "This matter, Tut, only you and I must know. If it reaches Mr. and Mrs. Bao, there will be serious trouble." Tut nodded earnestly. The joyous crowing of roosters filled the village, the morning light breaking, and the fog began to dissipate. The master and servant cautiously emerged from the kitchen, but Mr. Mao's fear was still undeniably present. At Mr. Bao's house next door, Mrs. Bao had also woken up. The servants in the house were busy lighting the stove and brewing tea. Mrs. Bao, as usual, called out loudly, "Lan, is the tea ready? Then you and Sue go to the market. Today is Elder Bai's 49th day ceremony, so buy plenty of things." From the kitchen, the maid, her face glistening with sweat, carried a full tray and placed it on the bamboo table in the courtyard, then stepped back to call Sue. Mr. Bao then emerged into the courtyard and loudly called out to his wife, "Have you lit incense for father yet?" "I already lit the incense for father." "Listen, don't go anywhere today. Many guests will come for the 49th day ceremony. I need to oversee the servants to prepare the food, otherwise people will talk. I've already arranged with the village monk for the ceremony to begin around 7 o'clock. Mrs. Bao then went straight to the back of the house, urging the other servants. Left alone, Mr. Bao went to the bamboo table in front of Elder Bai's room, sat down, stretched, and yawned. Mr. Bao poured himself a cup of hot tea. Mrs. Bao and the servants hurried past, asking, "Do you need anything else, dear? Perhaps buy some more card sets for the elderly ladies to play with." Mrs. Bao smiled, then quickly sent the two servants on their way. In moments, only Mr. Bao remained in the courtyard, with the dog curled up under the table. He picked up the teacup, closed his eyes to savor the aroma, then took a sip. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept in from the gate, chilling him to the bone and making him shudder. The intense cold made Mr. Bao huddle, but the strange, cold wind vanished as quickly as it appeared. Before he could recover, the wooden door to Elder Bai's room suddenly burst open, slamming against the brick wall with a loud thud. The sudden noise startled the calm dog, making it jump up. Mr. Bao quickly turned his head. Because the curtains and windows were thin, he could immediately see the entire room. Through the widely open window, Mr. Bao was startled to see his father's altar sitting prominently inside, and Elder Bai's face, portrayed in the spirit portrait, staring fixedly at him with stern eyes. Mr. Bao panicked, quickly turning away and calling out, "Lan, where are you? Why didn't you secure the door to father's shrine? The wind just blew it wide open like this." From the back of the house, a servant girl replied, "Sir, we are not allowed to enter father's shrine. We don't know what happened." Mr. Bao angrily yelled, "Go quickly and secure it properly, or the wind will blow out the incense." "What then?" The servant girl mumbled as she went, then hurried back to the kitchen to continue chopping vegetables. Mr. Bao then glanced at the window again and was startled by something very strange. The black dog, which Elder Bai, his father, had cherished deeply in life, usually barked furiously at strangers. Yet now it was standing in front of the window, wagging its tail wildly, as if Elder Bai had just returned. This sight sent a shiver down Mr. Bao's spine. Could it be? Mr. Bao quickly stood up, wanting to confront his father's shrine. Deep down, a chilling sensation suddenly enveloped him. But before he could take more than a few steps, he heard Mr. Kai's familiar voice from outside the gate. "You're up already, Mr. Bao?" Mr. Bao stood stiffly in the middle of the courtyard, turning to look at Mr. Kai, who was walking in from the gate. His mind was still in turmoil, but Mr. Bao forced himself to hide his fear. He hurried forward, inviting Mr. Kai inside, then feigned sadness and said, "Please, Mr. Kai, come in and have some freshly brewed tea. It's still hot. Today I'm holding Father's 49th day ceremony, so I woke up early to prepare. I don't want to be unprepared when guests arrive." Following Mr. Bao to the bamboo table, Mr. Kai sat down, his eyes fixed on the window in front of him, the window of Elder Bai's shrine. Mr. Bao poured him a cup of tea. Mr. Kai placed it down gravely and said, "Mr. Bao, I have a question for you, if you don't mind. Since this morning, has your family lost anything? Money, documents, land deeds, rice, chickens, ducks, anything at all?" Mr. Bao was surprised. "No, I haven't heard the servants report anything. But why do you ask, Mr. Kai?" Mr. Kai got straight to the point, gesturing towards the window behind Mr. Bao. "Early this morning, around Mao hour, I was patrolling the village with my young apprentice, Sue. As we passed your fence, we saw someone standing by the window, their back facing outward, their face turned towards your house." Mr. Bao gasped, "What are you saying, Mr. Kai? Someone was standing there, looking into my house in the courtyard. Did you recognize them? Man or woman, old or young?" Mr. Kai frowned, recalling. "It was quite foggy at the time, and we were quite a distance away, so I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. I only saw a stooped figure, not young. Initially, my apprentice and I thought it was a villager, but then we saw your dog circling that figure, wagging its tail as if in delight. So I guessed it was someone from afar." Mr. Kai pondered for a second, then shook his head. "No, it couldn't have been a thief. A thief usually wears dark clothes, not white, and doesn't just stand there idly." Mr. Bao gasped, interrupting him. "What did you say, Mr. Kai? Stooped back, wearing white?" Mr. Kai confirmed. "Absolutely. Its color matched the morning mist, which is why I noticed it." I cleared my throat loudly to make my presence known, and then the figure left towards the back of the house. "I found it very strange, so I came to your house. I should take my leave now. I need to go with Mr. Truong to the district official's office to report on the tax situation." Mr. Bao walked him to the gate, then returned, bewildered, sitting down at the bamboo table, lost in thought. Just then, from inside the room, he heard a creaking sound. At that moment, there was no one in the house. As the creaking sound lingered, Mr. Bao also heard a hacking cough. The muffled cough was just like his father, Elder Bai, when he was alive. Mr. Bao stood up in panic, walked straight into the courtyard, staring with bated breath into the shrine room. Suddenly, from behind him, a cold hand reached out and touched his shoulder, making Mr. Bao jump. He nearly fell to the ground. Turning around in a fright, he saw the maid standing behind him. In her hands was a wooden tray holding a bowl of rice and a bowl of salt. Mr. Bao breathed a shaky sigh, his face now as pale as if he had suffered a stroke. The maid was alarmed. "Master, what's wrong? I called you several times, but you didn't answer. Are you trying to give me a heart attack, you crazy girl?" The maid turned pale, then quickly calmed herself. "Yes, master, I did call you several times, but you didn't hear. The offering for father is ready. Please take it in and offer it." Mrs. Bao said you must be the one to do it, and that we shouldn't enter the room and defile the pure shrine. Mr. Bao let out a deep breath, then said gently, "I'll make an exception and let you go in to offer it to father." The maid nodded and carried the tray into the room. Mr. Bao watched her. But a moment later, the maid came out, looking troubled. Mr. Bao quickly pulled her aside into a sun-drenched part of the courtyard and asked, "Hey, did you see anyone in there?" "Sir, who do you mean? Mrs. Bao and Lan have gone to the market, you're out here in the courtyard, and I'm cooking pig feed. Who else would be in the shrine room? Please don't scare me." "No, I mean, did you hear any strange noises? I thought I heard creaking, perhaps someone messing around." The maid was truly terrified. She looked at Mr. Bao with wide eyes and stammered, "Sir, the hammock Elder Bai used was burned 2 years ago, right after the funeral. You yourself ordered it." "How could there be a hammock in the room to make a creaking sound?" Mr. Bao was speechless, his heart pounding, for the maid's words were true. After his father's funeral, he himself had ordered the servants to take all of Elder Bai's belongings to the backyard. He was also the one who lit the fire to burn them. Even his father's hammock, where he used to lie, had been reduced to ashes. The more he thought, the more terrified Mr. Bao became. But being a man of deep cunning, he immediately snapped. "Go on, look, I just missed father too much, so I imagined things. You can go now. And tell Ben to sweep the courtyard. The ceremony for father is about to begin." The maid's face relaxed. "Yes, sir, thank you." Left alone, Mr. Bao stood bewildered in the courtyard, looking up at the main house where he had been born and raised for almost 50 years. He couldn't understand why he felt such a chill today, as if a ghostly aura surrounded him. Ever since Mr. Kai told him about the figure, he found the house unsettling. Perhaps from now on, he couldn't bear to be alone here anymore. After a few seconds of confusion, he didn't dare to go inside, pacing back and forth, waiting anxiously for his wife. After a while, a horse cart arrived, carrying Mrs. Bao and various provisions. The servants, busy preparing for the ceremony, were now all gathered inside. The presence of so many people somewhat dispelled the gloomy atmosphere, making Mr. Bao feel a little relieved. Seeing her husband still standing outside, Mrs. Bao urged him, "Aren't you going inside to get ready for your bath? The ceremony is about to begin." Mr. Bao forced a grim smile and reluctantly went inside. In his room, he deliberately spoke loudly, sharing stories. Hearing his wife's voice from the outer room, he felt a bit calmer. He went to the wardrobe and reached out to open its wooden door. A screeching sound echoed, making him shiver as he remembered the creaking hammock in the shrine room earlier. As the wardrobe door opened, a foul, musty odor assailed him, making Mr. Bao recoil, covering his nose instinctively. After the dreadful smell dissipated slightly, Mr. Bao regained his composure and looked inside. Immediately, his face changed color, turning from pale green to ghostly white. For before his eyes, on the dark wooden floor of the wardrobe, was not the white silk clothing from Van Zion tailors, but a tattered, mud-stained burial shroud. On the chest of the garment, the character, though longevity was clearly visible, it was the very shroud Elder Bai had worn before being placed in the coffin. The shroud emitted a chilling, metallic smell, causing Mr. Bao to retch. The sound of his retching made Mrs. Bao rush in, alarmed. "Oh dear, what's wrong? Why are you throwing up so violently?" Mr. Bao's eyes were still tightly shut, and he pointed towards the wardrobe with a trembling voice. The shirt. What shirt?" Mrs. Bao looked confused and hurried to the wardrobe. Then she picked up a white silk outfit and held it in front of her husband. Mr. Bao, eyes still tightly shut, stumbled back a few steps, waving his hands wildly, pushing his wife away. Mrs. Bao then placed the shirt back in the wardrobe and asked, perplexed, "What's wrong with you? This is the new outfit I bought from Van Zion's store just last week. Didn't you see it?" Only then did Mr. Bao dare to squint his eyes open, and indeed, on the dark wooden floor of the wardrobe, lay the red outfit his wife had bought last week. Could I have been seeing things? Mr. Bao grabbed the outfit and examined it. It was indeed new silk, meticulously stitched. Mrs. Bao then urged him, "What are you standing there for? The monk will be here soon. Go take a bath and get ready for the ceremony." Mr. Bao reluctantly nodded, then went to bathe. A short while later, the monk arrived and the offerings were laid out. That day, guests arrived in large numbers, not leaving until dusk, allowing the servants to begin cleaning. Mr. Bao wearily entered the house and sat down. Seeing a maid cleaning bowls on the bed, he blurted out, "Where's your mistress?" "Sir, I think she's sleeping in her room. Oh, and please bring a few more oil lamps up. I want it bright in here tonight." The maid nodded and carried the stack of bowls away, while Mr. Bao went into the room and lit the oil lamp on the wooden table. Mr. Bao clearly saw a figure under the blanket on the bed, not moving. He intended to wake his wife to discuss today's offerings. But as he pulled back the blanket, oh, a horrifying sight met his eyes, and a terrible stench like a rotting toad overwhelmed him, making Mr. Bao feel like he might faint. Lying on the bed was a familiar figure. Two wide, staring eyes, a stooped back, dry, bony limbs, and a body stiff as stone. Hair matted with mud, as if freshly dug from a grave, coupled with a pale face and parched lips. And before his wide, staring eyes was a breathless corpse, and that corpse was none other than Elder Bai, his father. He lay on the bed, stiff-necked, staring at Mr. Bao. And in that instant, as Mr. Bao gurgled in terror, nearly soiling his pants, black blood continuously flowed from Elder Bai's 7 orifices, his swollen hands with their pale, wrinkled skin reaching out as if to grasp him. Just then, a loud voice boomed from the front of the house. "Where are you all?" Why are there no lights lit in the house? Where's your husband? Tell him I need to speak with him. It was his wife's booming voice. Mr. Bao, in his state of paralysis, felt as if he had grasped a lifeline. His entire body seemed to jolt back to life, his limbs moving again. He shrieked and burst out of the room as if flying. But as he ran out, it felt as if an invisible hand was pulling him back. His legs felt like lead. Mr. Bao's mind went wild, his heart pounded, his breath came in ragged gasps of fear, sweat drenched him. Suddenly, the pulling force vanished. Mr. Bao lost his balance and fell. The painful sensation at his temples jolted Mr. Bao awake. He realized he had been dozing at the tea table. He hadn't gone into the room at all. Outside, only the faint darkness enveloped him. The servants were cleaning in the backyard. Inside the house, the shadows seemed to form a menacing curtain, trapping him. He let out a faint scream and rushed to the veranda, asking, "Where's your mistress?" Hearing her husband's voice, Mrs. Bao emerged from behind. "What are you doing here, standing like you're possessed? I'm busy urging the servants." Just then, she saw her husband's face, green as a banana leaf. Mrs. Bao, perplexed, approached and took his hand, finding it ice cold, his body trembling uncontrollably. She instinctively tried to pull him inside, but Mr. Bao stood rooted to the spot. Mrs. Bao, confused, quickly asked, "Good heavens, why aren't you coming inside? Standing in this wind and mist will make you sick." "My dear, I just had a dream. Father's spirit hasn't found peace yet. He's still lingering in the house and I'm scared to death." No sooner had he spoken than the window suddenly slammed shut with a bang. At that moment, there was no wind. Mrs. Bao shrieked in terror, pressing herself against her husband, staring wide-eyed into the dimly lit house. She nervously cleared her throat, trying to reassure herself. "Are you drunk, dear? What nonsense are you spouting?" Mr. Bao, his face bloodless, quickly pulled his wife a safe distance away. He looked around cautiously. When he was sure they were alone, he blurted out the story. Mrs. Bao, being superstitious and terrified of ghosts, turned paler and paler as her husband recounted the tale. Finally, she had to admit, "Oh no, dear, so father's spirit hasn't found peace. People say that the spirits of those who die unjustly often return." The words "die unjustly" had slipped out of her mouth, piercing Mr. Bao's heart. "What nonsense are you talking about? He died of a stroke, hitting his head. How is that unjust? Where's the injustice?" Mrs. Bao, suspicious, speculated. Perhaps father had an unfulfilled wish, so he returned to show himself. But whatever the reason, if what you say is true, then this house is truly haunted. My dear, what should we do now? How do we handle this? Now, you must come with me to the pagoda. Let's invite a group of monks to perform a prayer ritual for father. Mrs. Bao furtively glanced at her husband, then hesitated, but the monk performed rituals for 2 hours this morning. What more can be done? If we go to the pagoda, let's go tomorrow. It's a long climb up the hill to the main hall. It would take until midnight. Mr. Bao clenched his teeth, resolute. If prayers don't work, there's only one way: seal the grave. The 2 words, "seal the grave," rang out so powerfully that Mrs. Bao was more terrified than if she had seen a ghost. That her gentle, kind husband could utter such a heartless thing about his own father shocked her. In that fleeting moment, she imagined encountering her father-in-law's ghost in the 5-room house, and she understood. After a few more words, the couple quickly called the servants, ordering all the lights extinguished and the 2 maids to sleep in the main house tonight. The 2 maids didn't understand what was happening but dared not disobey. That night, they spread 2 mats in the middle of the main hall. Time slowly passed until midnight, when a light rain began to fall. An eerie, chilling atmosphere enveloped the house. Outside, the 2 maids slept soundly after a busy day. Inside, Mr. and Mrs. Bao tossed and turned for a long time before finally falling asleep. Around 2:30 in the morning, the rain stopped, and in an instant, the moon emerged from behind the clouds. It was the ox hour. Mrs. Bao was sleeping when she heard a rustling sound, like someone sweeping dry leaves in the backyard. The sound woke her. She frowned, annoyed, then turned to look out the window, seeing the moon still high. Mrs. Bao reached for the blanket to cover herself, but felt the blanket was strangely light. She turned her head and saw that her husband was gone. The rustling sound, like sweeping leaves outside the window, continued steadily. Mrs. Bao sat up, tying her hair and clearing her throat. "Who's out there, sweeping so vigorously in the middle of the night?" The sound continued steadily, and this time it came from the side of the house. Mrs. Bao quickly got out of bed and went outside. In the main hall, where guests were received, the 2 maids were still deeply asleep. Mrs. Bao hit one of them and said, "Hey, wake up, come with me to the back of the house. Why are you sleeping like you're dead?" The two maids only shivered but did not wake up. Mrs. Bao decided to bravely go check herself. She gently pushed the door open and crept towards the side of the house. There was no one there. After a moment of bewilderment, she turned to go back inside. She hadn't taken 2 steps when the rustling sound echoed steadily again. She angrily turned back towards the source of the sound, then suddenly gasped in horror. Before her eyes, right beside the house, only 20 steps from where she stood, was an utterly grotesque figure. Under the bright moonlight, the black dog, her father-in-law's beloved pet from when he was alive, had eerily appeared. Since Elder Bai's 49th day ceremony, the dog had vanished without a trace, and now it reappeared in the most unsettling way possible. It was standing upright on its hind legs, its front paws clasped to its chest, its tongue hanging out to one side, its teeth bared in a terrifying grimace as if laughing. But the most horrifying sight that struck Mrs. Bao was not its monstrous form, but something else. That is, on the dog's back, a human corpse was tied, dressed in a burial shroud. The body was stiff, its limbs contorted to one side, its eyes staring blankly at her. Mrs. Bao stared in horror. Hearing the sound of a wooden fish drum echoing from the main road in the night, she suddenly woke up in a panic. She looked around and realized she was still in her room. It had only been a dream. But the nightmare was so vivid that it left her drenched in sweat, her heart pounding wildly, feeling her blood run cold as fear enveloped her. Outside, the wind had died down, and the back garden was immersed in silence. The night wind carried the faint scent of magnolias, calming her mind somewhat. Elder Bai had planted many fruit trees in this garden, and he would often go out to water them in the early morning or at dusk. Remembering her father-in-law standing in the garden in his silk clothes, Mrs. Bao quickly shook her head to ward off the fear, but the feeling of panic hadn't yet faded. Before she could fully regain her composure, Mrs. Bao flinched, hearing the chilling cry of a cat in the night. The prolonged cry of that cat normally frightened her, and with such unease filling her heart, the cry was no different from a ghost's wail calling out to someone in the dark night. The cry rose exactly 3 times, then vanished, returning to absolute silence. No wind, no rustling leaves, everything was as still as a tomb. And as Mrs. Bao's heart pounded with fear, the window suddenly opened. As the window opened, the entire scene of the backyard appeared before her eyes. As she glanced in that direction, she gasped, frozen, seeing a faint sobbing sound echoing from the back of the garden. The low, chilling wail sent shivers down her spine. Mrs. Bao recoiled in shock, staring wide-eyed out into the garden, her mouth agape, unable to scream. Under the pale moonlight, she shrieked, seeing her father-in-law, Elder Bai, wearing a white shroud, standing prominently beside an ancient tree, staring fixedly at her. The white figure vanished, only for the wind to carry a foul stench. Mrs. Bao froze on the bed, trembling uncontrollably, her eyes blurred and fixed on the fog that seemed to have just enveloped her. Elder Bai seemed to gasp for breath, standing there, a pale hand reaching out to clutch the window bars, and then his white hair and dark face slowly rose to confront her, only an arm's length from where she sat. Mrs. Bao shrieked, falling backward, losing consciousness. The pungent smell of hot oil mixed with salty fish sauce jolted Mrs. Bao awake. She screamed, leaping up quickly, then huddled in the corner of the bed, clutching her head with both hands. She looked around wildly and realized she was in her room. Around her were Mr. Bao's worried face and the 2 maids. Seeing his wife awaken, Mr. Bao rushed to her. "What are you doing, yelling like that in the middle of the night? It took so much effort to wake you up." He then turned to the 2 maids. "And you two, what are you still doing here?" Mrs. Bao grabbed her husband's arm, sobbing, "No, dear, this house is haunted. We can't stay here. Let's leave." "Quiet down. What nonsense are you talking about? It's nighttime, don't speak ill." Despite her husband's scolding, Mrs. Bao continued to sob, her face unable to hide her horror. She clutched her husband's hand and shrieked, "Father!" Father was standing right there at the window. "Please, dear, invite the monk to come back or seal the grave, whatever it takes. Just don't let Father's spirit appear again." The 2 maids exchanged stunned glances, then one blurted out, "What did you say, madam? Seal Elder Bai's grave?" Mr. Bao angrily yelled. "How could you know about such matters? She's just missing Father too much, so she's dreaming. If you miss him, you'll dream of him. What's so strange about that? I also dreamed of Father just now. And what are you two still doing here?" "Go light a fire and make some hot porridge for your mistress." The maids, fearing their master's wrath, quickly rushed to the kitchen. Only then did Mr. and Mrs. Bao turn pale and discuss the matter more seriously, for more than anything, he believed that Elder Bai's ghost still lingered in the house. After a while of discussion, Mrs. Bao recounted her terrifying nightmare. The more Mr. Bao listened, the more chills ran down his spine. After a moment, he tried to comfort her. "After you finish the porridge, try to sleep. I'm here. First thing tomorrow morning, I'll go invite Master Kim to seal the grave. Don't worry, dear." From then until morning, Mr. and Mrs. Bao kept all the lights lit and stayed together, no one daring to sleep alone. At dawn the next day, while Mrs. Bao was taking a maid to the pagoda to perform a prayer ritual for her father-in-law, Mr. Bao and Sue drove the horse cart to a temple in a neighboring district. There, he knew a powerful sorcerer named Master Kim. Sitting in the horse cart, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep, Mr. Bao recounted the story from some time ago. A month prior, during a day when Elder Bai was personally ill, Mr. Bao had the opportunity to attend the funeral of a geomancer at a nearby temple. Through conversation, Mr. Bao learned that this sorcerer, named Kim, was the same age as him and a renowned spellcaster in the region, specializing in exorcising evil spirits, performing burial rituals, and divining feng shui for families. Their conversation became increasingly congenial, and Mr. Bao even felt a sense of admiration, as Master Kim accurately described details about his house, such as the location of the bed relative to the ancestral altar and other secret family matters. Master Kim's profound talent made Mr. Bao want to invite him home for a meal and further discussion. However, Master Kim cited urgent ritual duties for a funeral and politely declined, promising to visit in 3 days. Before leaving, Master Kim asked a chilling question. "Did your biological father, Elder Bai, suffer from a serious illness, Mr. Bao? I sensed the chi from his spirit and predicted that within this month, your mother's ancestral worship hall will be directly attacked, causing misfortune and possibly a death." He continued, "I ask this because your biological father, Elder Bai, was born in the year of the tiger, wasn't he?" Mr. Bao's face turned pale, and he nodded. "Yes, Master. Both my father and I were born in the year of the tiger." "Listen carefully to what I say, Mr. Bao," Master Kim urged. "Your father, born in the year of the tiger, from what I see, will pass away this month. This is the month of the pig. If your father dies on a pig day or pig hour, it violates the Luke Canthin Din. If he dies on a Kui Tai day or Kui Hoi hour, it violates the Then Trung Luke Kui Thin and Guk." Mr. Bao gasped. "What does that mean, Master?" "I'm a tiger. The more I hear, the more terrified I become. Please enlighten me." The Master sighed and replied, "If your father dies at such a time, your family will suffer from Trung Tang. And this is a severe type, Trung Tang Tam Sa. Villagers call it Trung Tang That Sack, meaning 7 people in your household will die in succession. First, your children and grandchildren, then relatives and friends, until the calamity is exhausted. At that point, your family line will be cut off and your clan will suffer heavy losses. Then what should my family do, Master? Please show me a way to survive," Mr. Bao pleaded. "This matter, I fear, depends on fate. I must go now. I will see you in 3 days at your home." 3 days later, the Master returned to Mr. Bao's house and carefully examined it. Then he stated with certainty that there was a way to avoid Trung Tang. That is, when Elder Bai passed away, they must continuously burn incense for the ancestors and the 7 generations altar in the room. This ritual would hopefully prolong Elder Bai's life. As long as he didn't die on the Trung day or Trung hour, the danger of Trung Tang would be averted. Mr. Bao etched this instruction into his heart. From that day on, he paid closer attention to his father, always monitoring Elder Bai's condition. Then, after many twists and turns of fate, on the Kui Hoi day of that month, Elder Bai suddenly collapsed after slipping while relieving himself. He fell to the ground, bleeding profusely, but unexpectedly, as dusk approached, the pain intensified. That day, Mrs. Bao had gone to her maternal home across the river. The servants in the house were busy harvesting rice. Only Mr. Bao remained at home. Village doctors were immediately called, but everyone shook their heads, telling Mr. Bao to prepare for his father's passing. News spread and villagers came to inquire. But after sitting for a while, people excused themselves and left, making Mr. Bao feel more anxious than ever. The critical hour was approaching, and Elder Bai was growing weaker, lying in bed, eyes half closed, mouth agape, gasping for air. His life was hanging by a thread, measured in mere moments. Standing by his father's bedside, the words of the geomancer echoed in his ears. "If your father dies at that hour, your family will suffer Trung Tang, and the most severe kind is Trung Tang Tam Sa, which villagers call Trung Tang That Sack." meaning 7 people in your household will die in succession. First, your children and grandchildren, then relatives and friends, until the calamity is exhausted. Recalling the horrifying prospect, Mr. Bao quickly lit incense for the ancestors and the 7 generations altar in his father's shrine room, which immediately became shrouded in incense smoke. But with each passing moment, Elder Bai grew weaker, his life like a flickering oil lamp in the wind. Finally, Mr. Bao made an extremely cruel decision. Elder Bai would not survive the night anyway. If he died during the Hoi hour, the family would surely be cursed with Trung Tang. At that point, not only Elder Bai, but even Mr. Bao himself would die. For years, living under his father's oppressive rule, Mr. Bao had longed to break free. There was too much wealth in the house. All this land, all these assets were his now. If he died, how would he enjoy his good fortune? So Mr. Bao cruelly grabbed a bottle of poison, forced open his father's mouth, and poured it in. The strong poison made Elder Bai, who was in a semi-conscious state, open his eyes wide. He clenched his jaw in agony. His eyes glared as he saw his son, Mr. Bao, recoil in panic. Seeming to understand the situation, Elder Bai writhed in pain. His wrinkled hands clenched, enduring. A resolute and strong man, Elder Bai gathered his remaining strength and tried to speak. Why? Why are you killing me, ungrateful son? And with a final gasp, Elder Bai tried to raise a fist towards his son, who recoiled further, the ungrateful son turning his back. Elder Bai's hand dropped, sweat poured down his face, his entire body trembling. Just as his body went limp, a panicked whisper came from the gate the village elders had come to inquire. Mr. Bao frantically rushed to the bedside, quickly grabbing a cloth to wipe his father's face, then wadded it up and crammed it into his father's mouth. Choking, Elder Bai struggled, but Mr. Bao pressed his full weight onto the bed. Elder Bai's hands convulsed a few times, then went limp. Knowing his father had stopped breathing, Mr. Bao quickly stood up, pulled out the cloth, and threw it under the bed. He let out a desperate cry of grief, then painfully went to open the door. The village elders rushed in. Elder Bai was dead, his mouth agape, eyes wide open, filling everyone with sorrow. Each person looked at Mr. Bao with a sigh, but no one knew that Mr. Bao had murdered his father to avoid Trung Tang. Not even Mrs. Bao knew. Yet now Elder Bai's ghost had truly returned to the mortal realm. The more he thought, the more terrified Mr. Bao became. Lost in thought, the horse cart arrived at the temple. Mr. Bao stumbled out, heading straight for the temple gate, but searched and searched, seeing no one. He then saw a child playing nearby, so he called him over. "Child, may I ask, where is the sorcerer of this temple?" "Sir, Master Kim has been traveling the world for over a month and hasn't returned to the temple." Mr. Bao stared blankly into the temple, then, filled with a sense of unease, turned to leave. But after 3 steps, he suddenly recoiled in shock, for the child recited a poem. "A life of filial impiety, old age brings naught but sorrow. To neglect the revered, forgetting offerings, brings endless pain and a burden heavy to bear. Though learned without wisdom, a foolish mind you possess. The master lives in sorrow, a curse upon your head." Mr. Bao frantically turned back, seeing the child skipping down the road. He quickly got back into the cart, urging Sue to take him back to the village as fast as possible. Back home, Mr. Bao didn't dare to go inside immediately, lingering in the courtyard, waiting for his wife. Sue had already taken the horse back to the stable, leaving Mr. Bao alone in the spacious house. He didn't dare to venture further inside. He wearily leaned against a chair on the left side of the house, looking sadly at every corner of the house he had lived in for decades. In every nook and cranny, a chilling, melancholic aura seemed to gather around him in his anxiety. Just as his eyes turned towards his father's room, Mr. Bao gasped, frozen, nearly dying of fright. For he had just seen a stooped figure, with a hunchback and a cane, walk through the closed window and into the shrine room. Mr. Bao shivered with an icy chill, his eyes wide and vacant, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. He frantically rubbed his eyes, but the window remained still and silent. A dream or reality? Mr. Bao quickly stood up, then heard a loud banging sound. He rushed forward in a panic, his mind convinced that Mrs. Bao had returned. The wooden door opened, and he saw it was Mr. Mao, his close neighbor. Noticing Mr. Bao's pale face, Mr. Mao asked with a frown, "Good heavens, why are you so pale, Mr. Bao? Did you see a ghost? Come inside and have some tea with me." Mr. Mao surreptitiously glanced inside, as if fearing something, then said, "It would be more convenient if you came to my house, Mr. Bao. Truthfully, I dare not enter your house." "What reason do you have to act so gravely, Mr. Mao?" Mr. Bao hesitated for a few seconds, then asked, "As neighbors, tell me honestly, after father passed away, did you notice anything strange?" "Why do you ask, Mr. Bao? Strange how?" "It's because I've seen father's ghost several times." "What did you say? You saw your father's ghost?" Mr. Mao pondered, taking a sip of tea, then recounted his first encounter with Elder Bai's ghost and his most recent one, which was last night. Last night, Mr. Mao and his servant, Tut, had gone to a funeral feast in a neighboring village. When the master and servant returned to the alley, it was exactly midnight. As they reached the alley, they saw a figure with a cane, dressed in white, floating rather than walking. At that time, Mr. Mao and Tut were both very drunk, their vision blurred, so they thought they were imagining things. However, being drunk and with a skilled martial arts servant accompanying him, Mr. Mao boldly said, "Hey, go follow that person." After a short distance, the figure turned into Mr. Bao's gate. The figure stood there for a few seconds, then quickly passed through the wooden gate. Mr. Mao and Tut then clung to the fence, craning their necks to look inside. What met their wide eyes was the sight of the stooped figure standing in front of the house. The door was closed, yet the figure just stood there. Terrified, Mr. Mao turned to run home, but the figure flew towards the side of the house and vanished, leaving them in utter confusion. When they woke up, the master and servant rushed home as if insane. Once home, Mr. Mao suddenly remembered that figure and realized it was Elder Bai's ghost. Reaching this point, Mr. Mao hesitated, then asked, "So, Mr. Bao, have you performed the prayer rituals for your father?" Mr. Bao nodded and said, "Ever since we performed the gate opening ritual and the 49th day ceremony, my family has invited monks to pray for his soul." Mr. Mao frowned, then mumbled, "How can such a thing be happening?" Mr. Mao didn't reply, and after a few seconds excused himself, saying he had urgent matters to attend to. Returning home, facing the desolate scene once more, Mr. Bao again felt fear creeping in. Not daring to go into the house alone, he went straight to the kitchen, grabbed a bottle of white wine, and sat back down in his usual spot. Mr. Bao uncorked the wine and took a long gulp, seeking courage and hoping the alcohol would make him forget the horrifying visions. But suddenly, Mr. Bao felt a strange sensation, as if something was lodged in his throat. It completely blocked his airway, causing the wine to reverse, making him gasp for breath, his face turning red as the wine choked him. The sensation was as if someone was strangling him. Perhaps it was no different from when his father was strangled by the cloth in his mouth. Mr. Bao bent over, spilling wine everywhere. He frantically reached into his throat to pull out the obstructing object. Immediately, he gasped in shock, for it was a clump of white hair. It was about a hand span long. Mr. Bao stared at the clump of hair from his throat, his eyes glazed over at the sight. It was clearly rice wine he had been drinking, so how could there be a clump of white hair inside? Mr. Bao tried to vomit out the rest of the white hair from his throat. But as he wiped away the tears blurring his eyes, he clearly saw a pool of wine. He rubbed his eyes, disbelieving, not understanding what strange thing was happening. Taking a deep breath, Mr. Bao tried to calm himself, attempting to convince himself that he was just tired and hallucinating. But his heart today felt inexplicably strange. Lost in thought, he suddenly heard a rustling sound, like footsteps, coming from the side of the house. Mr. Bao recoiled, peering towards the window of Elder Bai's shrine room, holding his breath, waiting. The rustling grew louder, reaching his ears. Mr. Bao began to feel a chill. He slowly stood up, his eyes fixed on that direction, and what Mr. Bao least wanted to see truly appeared. Before his eyes, at the side of the house, only 20 steps from him, Mr. Bao saw the black dog standing on its hind legs. On its back was Elder Bai's corpse, staring fixedly at him with wide, dead eyes. Mr. Bao shrieked, then awoke with a start at a sound like thunder. It turned out to be a sudden downpour. Not daring to stay at home, Mr. Bao quickly ran out the gate, intending to go to Mr. Truong's house nearby to take shelter until his wife returned. He had barely taken a few steps out the gate when Mr. Truong accidentally encountered a disheveled and untidy beggar child approaching him. Mr. Bao immediately recognized the child, who was gaunt like a starving ghost, with pale skin, ulcers, and festering sores on his head and body. He walked with a stumbling gait, as if drained of life. He wore a tattered bamboo hat and ragged clothes, carrying a long stick, and his 2 bony legs, still visible beneath his tattered trousers, had several old dog bite marks. The beggar child took a few more steps, then stopped, breathing heavily. His tattered bag slipped down with each gut-wrenching cough. Mr. Bao, in his state of confusion, wanted someone to talk to, so he pulled out a quan coin and held it out to the child. "Here, take this. Come with me for a bit, Mr. Truong. I feel uneasy walking alone." The beggar child's eyes lit up at the sight of the money. He snatched it, then looked up at Mr. Bao's face. The child suddenly threw the coin down, reached out and touched Mr. Bao's face, speaking in a hollow voice. "I won't take money from an ungrateful son like you. You should go home and reflect. Otherwise, you'll be struck down in the street." Mr. Bao gasped in terror, but even more shocking was that in an instant, the beggar child vanished. Was it real or a dream? Could he have encountered a ghost in such a storm? This made Mr. Bao even more terrified. He rushed home, not daring to offer the child any more money. The rain poured down like a deluge, thunder clapped, lightning struck with deafening roars. Whether he wanted to or not, he had to go inside. Straight into the shrine room, Mr. Bao trembled as he lit the oil lamp, then lit 8 sticks of incense one by one. He mumbled prayers. "I bow to my ancestors, I bow to the master. I am a sinner. But what happened was to save my family. Please, ancestors and heaven, be my witness." As he opened his eyes, Mr. Bao screamed in horror, falling backward, his face ashen, his eyes glazed, his limbs limp. Above the altar, the 8 sticks of incense, which had been burning gently, suddenly flared up. The 8 flames illuminated the altar, revealing the faces of 8 dead people staring at him with vengeful eyes. Outside, the rain poured even heavier, the wind blew even stronger. Inside the house, Mr. Bao was experiencing extreme horror. While still frozen in place, suddenly from behind him, outside the wooden door, he heard a screeching sound, like someone's fingernails dragging against a surface, piercing his ears and making him shudder. Mr. Bao recoiled in terror. A shadow shrieked and darted from outside into the house. Mr. Bao flinched, trying to dodge, his heart almost stopping, but then he realized it was the black dog, rushing quickly into Elder Bai's shrine room. Mr. Bao's face turned ashen, his pants soaked, his eyes nearly popping out, staring fixedly into the shrine room. The main door seemed to be impacted by a terrifying force, slamming shut with a bang, trapping Mr. Bao in the gloomy house. In his terror, he frantically lunged to open the door, trying to escape. But as he looked out, before his eyes was a courtyard with several chrysanthemum bushes being lashed about by the wind and rain. Suddenly, Mr. Bao gasped, his eyes vacant, rooted to the spot. In the courtyard, the stooped, mud-soaked figure of Elder Bai stood silently, staring at him. Elder Bai stood directly in front of him, only 10 paces away, in the pouring rain, but his voice, like a strange echo from a deep abyss, resonated. "Bao, oh Bao," Mr. Bao gasped, watching his father approach. Elder Bai lifted his head to look at him as if questioning him. His face was ghostly white, his eyes fixed on Mr. Bao, making him lose his composure after only a few seconds, as if a cold gust of wind suddenly enveloped him, making him shiver with fear. Elder Bai repeated in a deeper voice, "Bao, oh Bao." Half an hour later, amidst the pounding rain, the wailing wind, and the crashing thunder and lightning, on the wet dirt road leading to the cemetery at the end of the village, Mr. Bao stumbled, his clothes soaked, carrying a long, narrow shovel and 2 pieces of cloth tightly wrapped around his heavy footsteps. Mr. Bao walked and talked to himself, then stopped at the soaking wet cemetery and plunged the shovel into the ground, quickly digging a grave. An hour later, Mrs. Bao and the maid returned. Mrs. Bao quickly put on a palm leaf rain cloak, went straight into the house, lit the lamp, and wiped off her wet clothes. She called out, "Lan, is your master here? Where did he go that the door is wide open like this?" The maid quickly woke up and replied, "Madam, no one is home." Mrs. Bao was immediately suspicious. "How strange, the gate is wide open, but where is everyone? Never mind. Go light some incense for father, then come with me to the market, otherwise we'll be late. We have 2 more hours until the monks arrive." The maid nodded, picked up the oil lamp, and went inside. As she pushed aside the curtain, she shrieked in terror, seeing the black dog lying stiff under the altar, blood flowing out from its mouth. The maid cried out, "Madam, the master's dog is gone. It followed the master." Mrs. Bao gasped, about to rush in to see what was happening, when a group of villagers came running, their faces all pale. They yelled, "Madam, madam." Mr. Bao was struck dead by lightning at the fresh grave he dug in the village cemetery.